last month that led to several arrests and left one officer hurt are now facing consequences.
Okay, but it's a different type of consequence. Superintendent of San Diego Unified, Cindy Marten, is here to talk about this interesting concept of restorative justice. Instead of expelling the kids involved just blanketly, we're talking about this process called restorative justice, and here's what it means.
They have to take responsibility for their action before they're even allowed into the program. If you've ever seen a youth go through the criminal justice system, oftentimes they just go through the motions. They sit in the room with their arms crossed, their heads down at their feet. They're not even really hearing what is being said. They're not taking responsibility for their action. They feel disengaged from the whole process. With restorative justice, it actually allows a youth to take part in the process from the very beginning, throughout the process to the end. And it's that engagement of a youth, that opportunity for them to be in the discussion, come up with the solution, along with all the other individuals in the community, and to see the impact of their behavior on the victim or on others that they've impacted. That is life-changing.
All right, so let's talk more about this idea of restorative justice. Superintendent Cindy Marten here. Good morning.
Nice to have you here. Good morning.
Nice to see you.
A lot of people are scratching their heads, Cindy, because, these juveniles involved in this committed, allegedly, felonies. I mean, they're being charged with felonies in some cases for this. So why not take action immediately to stop this? Why go this route?
I'm so glad you're asking. Lots of people are asking lots of questions, and it's allowing us to start a conversation that actually, as a district, we started several years ago. The city's been involved with restorative practices, and we haven't had a citywide conversation that's happening right now. And so for you to be able to ask and have us talk about what does this actually mean, look, we know there are people that will say you're not being tough and you need to punish these kids and they're not going to learn a lesson. And we disagree. And then there's people that may say, why do you even have police in school? It's too much policing. You shouldn't have police in school. We disagree with that too. We need to keep our schools safe, and ultimately we need to make decisions that are really in the best interest of our students.
So how do you hope restorative justice will work in this case?
So the whole idea of restorative justice, as Steve Dinkin just pointed out from the National Conflict Resolution Center, is we get our students together and they have to agree to and have a conversation in a facilitated setting where you talk about the harm that was caused and how do you repair that harm. And when harm is caused, you have people face one another and have a conversation. It's a very structured dialogue, and it takes time. It's not something that overnight, let's just sit down and talk and say, okay, I'm sorry, and then it's sort of a fake sorry.
Right.
We've seen that before. Someone hurts somebody and they say, your mom says, oh, tell them you're sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, but you're not really sorry. And so there's a very structured approach, and the National Conflict Resolution Center has years worth of information on this, and even the DA has a restorative justice approach pilot in City Heights that's been going on for a couple years now with the Mid-City CAN and the California Endowment, taking students from juvenile justice system, putting them back into the community in a very structured approach where they face their victims and they have a dialogue, and it takes time. And what we know is that healing does take time. And one of the misconceptions about restorative practice is people think, oh, well, they don't get a punishment and they get to just get away with it. There's no getting away with anything. There's a very serious conversation, and what we're looking for is to not have students who have committed a crime, who have done something that is very serious. Make no mistake, we know how serious these charges are. Not just these charges, but other charges that juveniles have faced in some of the past cases of restorative practice. The charges are serious, but what we're looking for is how to not repeat. And the data on recidivism is what we're trying to change. And how do you, when you have somebody actually understand how much they've hurt somebody else, how much they've hurt their community, how much they may have hurt those around them that they didn't even realize, and they truly understand and own that, the chance that they'll repeat is reduced by a great amount. And that's what we're looking for, is long-term systemic change. And this city, in fact, Friday morning, there's a great irony here. Friday morning of this, when this event happened at Lincoln, at 8 o'clock that morning, all of the city leaders were down at City Hall holding what we called a restorative summit, first annual restorative summit. Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman was there, Bonnie Dumanis's office was there, the Mayor's Gang Commission was there. We had an entire group of people, and there was actually a panel of students from Lincoln presenting that morning at the Restorative Summit, where the city has committed to a new way and having less students in juvenile hall and actually changing outcomes for our students.
You know, part of that process, so that you're talking about this dialogue, is that the person responsible, the suspect or the perpetrator in this case, has to admit wrongdoing, has to admit, yes, I am responsible for this, yes, I take responsibility for this. But in this particular case in Lincoln High School, one of those suspects involved, his father actually has been out and about saying, well, listen to what his parent has, and I'll have you respond.
I don't really want to say too much as far as speaking on the case, because, you know, that's for the courts to handle or whatnot. But just like say, justice for justice, you know what I'm saying? I just want my son to be exonerated of anything, any false charges.
Okay, so that doesn't sound like taking responsibility. So how does this process work when that is the attitude?
In a restorative circle, you create the safe space for the hardest conversations to occur. And, you know, commenting on what a parent just said, he understands what his student is, or what his son is facing. What we create in the restorative circle is we create the safe space, we create the conditions that allow individuals to accept responsibility for their actions. That's at the heart of it. And until you can accept responsibility for your actions, we know the chance for change is lessened.
But you understand that in the criminal justice system, admitting guilt is a problem for a defense attorney who's going to be having a client who admits to saying that he was guilty in a restorative environment, and then it's saying in court that he's not guilty, that he needs to be defended in court. So how do you justify both things? This is the scales of justice, right?
Absolutely, the legal system is applying what it needs to apply, and that's going to play itself out in court in the way that it needs to. A restorative circle is something that's going to happen in its own space, and its own protected space, its own ability for the folks involved to have the honest conversation that they need to have. And timing of it there'll be sensitive timing, as you know. There's a criminal investigation going on, and we need to respect the judicial process and respect integrity of the investigation, respect the privacy of those involved, and at the same time, can we simultaneously make sure the students involved are able to continue their education while that process is taking place, that we're innocent until proven guilty. That needs to play itself out. I need to ensure that our students are getting access to their education while they're facing the penal system, and that will play itself out. Is
there a chance, I mean, I don't know how this would play out, but is there a chance that this student or all of these students involved, I mean, could they get suspended? I mean, is that part of this? Being suspended is in our repertoire of consequences. We've made a decision to not expel the students, but being suspended is part of the repertoire. Being suspended, being the way that they repair harm. Suspended is more on the punitive side, but that will be part of the conversation around what's the total package of what the consequences will be. And sometimes it's giving speeches to students about what you learned. Sometimes it's community service. Sometimes it's working in after-school programs, working with students younger than you to be able to talk about the lessons that you've learned. Those are some of the examples of what we've seen come out of restorative conferences that we've had.
Are the parents involved in this? Because it seems like you're taking the place of what should happen in the home, that these kinds of discussions and admissions should be happening with a mother and a father in a home, or just a parent in the home. Well, we work closely with our parents as partners, and parents have decisions that they make about parenting. We believe that a restorative approach is one that if we apply a restorative approach in the school system and a different approach is at home or a different approach is out on the streets, our students and our kids will get mixed messages. So we want to teach our parents about why a restorative approach might work, how to do that at home in parenting, and for us it's about teaching. It's about teaching our parents what they need to be the best parents they can be, teaching our city how to create conditions for our students to be the best contributing members of our community. Well, let's hope that the parents and the students involved do take that approach and do listen and take it to heart and we think accept. That there's a better way, and we think that what we did is something that is different than's been done before. We understand there's criticism on both sides, and I accept that criticism. I understand the tension that's there, but we're going to lead and we're going to assure that let's try a different way, not just as a school, not just a thing that just happened at Lincoln, but for our whole city. Let's have the right conversation and change our city. This is a great conversation, Cindy. Hopefully we can chat about it at another time as well. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.